As Zarn walked down the dimly lit metallic corridors of the space station's medical wing, he glanced at his tablet, reviewing the latest claim. The claimant, a human named Tom Jenkins, was requesting a whopping 10,000 credits for stress-induced complications, plus medical expenses. Zarn's antennae twitched in amusement. His job as an intergalactic insurance adjuster was to uncover fraudulent claims, and this one seemed particularly ridiculous. Stress-induced complications for that amount of money? It sounded like a classic case of human exaggeration. Zarn arrived at the medical bay, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light as he read the details. Tom Jenkins, Human Chief Maintenance Officer on Space Station Echo 47. Zarn had dealt with humans before. They were generally friendly but prone to overdramatizing their problems. This case was probably no different. He stepped up to the door of the humans' room and pressed the access button. The door slid open with a quiet hiss, revealing a scene that made Zarn pause. Tom Jenkins lay on the medical bed, his face pale, eyes half closed, and body covered in bandages. A faint groan escaped his lips as he shifted slightly, every movement seemingly causing him pain. His right leg was in a cast, his left arm in a sling, and various tubes and wires connected him to the station's medical equipment. "Mr. Jenkins," Zarn began, his voice tinged with both professionalism and confusion. Tom slowly turned his head, one eye bloodshot and swollen, the other barely open. "Yes," he rasped, his voice weak and strained. Zarn cleared his throat, stepping closer. "I'm Zarn V from Galactic Assurance. I'm here to follow up on your insurance claim due to, stress-induced complications." He tried to keep his tone neutral, but the absurdity of the situation was hard to ignore. Tom let out a pained sigh. "Yes. Stress," he murmured, as if the word alone could explain everything. Zarn activated his tablet, ready to take notes. "I'll need a detailed statement, Mr. Jenkins. Could you explain how this stress resulted in such severe injuries?" Tom nodded slowly, grimacing as he tried to sit up a bit straighter. "It all started during a routine maintenance check," he began. "I was overseeing the repair of the station's gravity regulators. You see, those things are finicky. One wrong move and you could destabilize the entire system. No big deal though, right? I've done it 100 times. Zarn nodded, his antennae twitching slightly as he typed. This wasn't the first time he'd heard about humans and their mishaps with gravity regulators. "Well," Tom continued, "we were about halfway through the check when the station's AI, Delta, starts glitching. Normally, Delta's as reliable as they come, but this time she started playing this eerie classical music over the comms. You know, the kind that makes your hair stand on end. And then, out of nowhere, she says, commencing gravity fluctuation in T-5 seconds." Zarn raised an eyebrow, his interest piqued. "Gravity fluctuation? On purpose?" "On purpose," Tom confirmed, wincing as he shifted again. "We barely had time to react. I managed to brace myself against the control panel, but the rest of the crew, well, they weren't so lucky. The fluctuation hit, and suddenly everything was floating, tools, equipment, even the coffee mugs. And then, just as quickly, the gravity came back on. Hard." Zarn could almost picture the chaos, tools and debris crashing to the floor, crew members thrown about like ragdolls. But it still didn't explain the extent of Tom's injuries. "That sounds chaotic," he said carefully, "but how did you end up in such bad shape?" Tom closed his eyes, as if reliving the nightmare. "You don't understand. When the gravity came back on, it was at twice the normal force. I was slammed against the console. And then..." He hesitated, as if dreading the memory. "The malfunctioning AI started cycling the gravity on and off in rapid succession. One moment I was weightless, the next I was pinned to the floor. It was like being inside a blender." Zarn winced at the imagery, his skepticism fading. This was sounding more serious than he had anticipated. "And the injuries?" Tom nodded solemnly. "Broken ribs from being slammed into the console. Fractured leg when I got thrown across the room. Dislocated shoulder from trying to hold on to a railing while everything else went flying. Not to mention the burns from the electrical sparks when the console overloaded." Zarn looked at the battered human before him, finally understanding the gravity, no pun intended, of the situation. "And this, all of this, was caused by a malfunctioning AI and a gravity regulator?" Tom laughed weakly, then winced from the pain. "Not exactly. After we finally managed to stabilize the gravity, we found out that the AI malfunction was caused by a glitch in the station's entertainment system. Someone had been trying to download an ancient Earth video game, a classic horror simulation, and it got mixed up with Delta's control algorithms. The AI thought it was part of her operating protocol." Zarn blinked in disbelief. "A video game caused all this?" Tom nodded, his expression weary. "Yeah. And as for the injuries, well, after the gravity was stabilized, I still had to finish the maintenance check. But every step I took felt like a nightmare. The station systems were still acting up, doors were opening and closing at random, and lights were flickering. By the time I made it to the medical bay, I was a wreck. Zarn shook his head, trying to process the bizarre series of events. He looked down at his tablet, where he had already written, "Denied," at the top of the form. With a sigh, he erased it. There was no way he could deny this claim now, not after hearing what this poor human had been through. "Mr. Jenkins," Zarn said, his voice now filled with genuine empathy, "I'll approve your claim. The medical expenses will be covered, and we'll make sure you get the compensation you need." Tom managed a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Zarn. I just hope this station gets its act together before anything else goes wrong." As Zarn left the medical bay, he filed the claim approval and made a note to recommend a thorough investigation into the station's AI systems. He couldn't help but shake his head in disbelief at the entire situation. Only humans, he thought, could turn a routine maintenance check into a cosmic catastrophe. Zarn returned to his office, the events of the day swirling in his mind. The station was known for its quirks, but this incident took the cake. As he sat down, his communicator buzzed with an incoming call. It was his supervisor, Truna. "Zarn, you were on Echo 47 today?" Truna's voice was clipped, betraying a hint of stress. "Yes, just left there," Zarn replied, wondering what new development was about to be thrown his way. "We've got a situation. The AI glitch wasn't an isolated incident. We're getting reports from 3 other stations in the sector, similar malfunctions, similar injuries. I need you to head to Echo 52. There's a claim coming in, and it sounds just as strange as the one on Echo 47. Be prepared for anything." Zarn sighed inwardly. It was going to be one of those weeks. "Understood, Truna. I'll head there immediately." As Zarn approached Echo 52, he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The report he'd received on the way was eerily similar to Tom Jenkins's case. Another gravity malfunction, another series of injuries, another video game download gone wrong. It felt too coincidental to be random. The docking procedure went smoothly, and Zarn stepped onto the station, the metallic clang of his boots echoing in the silent corridors. Echo 52 was smaller than Echo 47, but it had the same sterile, utilitarian design. He made his way to the medical bay, preparing himself for whatever bizarre story awaited him this time. The claimant, a Relaxion named Krelvos, was lying on the bed, his 6 limbs bandaged, and his scales looking dull and cracked. Relaxions were typically robust, but Krell looked like he'd been through a cosmic meat grinder. "Krell?" Zarn asked, stepping up to the bedside. Krell turned his head slowly, his compound eyes focusing on Zarn. "Yes? Who are you?" "I'm Zarn V from Galactic Assurance. I'm here to follow up on your claim." Krell let out a low, hissing sigh. "Another one. Are you going to ask me what happened? You wouldn't believe me if I told you." Zarn offered a faint smile. "Try me. I've had a strange day." Krell studied Zarn for a moment before nodding slightly. "Fine. It started with a routine software update. Our AI, Cynthia, was being upgraded with some new algorithm to improve efficiency. But something went wrong. Very wrong." Zarn activated his tablet, taking notes as Krell continued. The update caused Cynthia to start accessing old entertainment files in the station's database. She began merging them with her operational protocols, just like what happened on Echo 47. "We noticed something was off when she started quoting ancient Earth movies while controlling the station systems." Zarn's antennae twitched. "Quoting movies?" "Yeah," Krell confirmed, his voice tinged with frustration. "One moment she's talking about maintenance schedules, the next she's quoting lines from a 20th century Earth.